I would like to call to order the December 9, 2024 school board meeting at 6 p.m. Ms. Marsan, will you please take the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Bell.
Here.
Mrs. Fairgrieve.
Here.
Mr. Kusher.
Here.
Mr. Lentz.
Here.
Mrs. McCabe.
Here.
Mr. McNally.
Here.
Mr. Lackner.
Here, can we please rise for the pledge? Thank you. That moves us to item 2 on the agenda, public hearing. 2A is the public hearing on the tax levy. I'd like to call the public hearing on the tax levy to order at 6:01 p.m. We have included a document in board docs that lists our current cash balances as of June 30, 2024, as well as a document that includes the district's operating expenditures over the past 3 fiscal years. Justin Attaway is going to present information on the tax levy before we open the floor for comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lackner. So as a reminder, this year, the Business Services Committee spent several meetings in the spring taking a detailed look at the projected spending of our departments for the next 5 years. Those conversations provided an opportunity for robust discussion about the allocation of district resources, as well as an opportunity to make our financial data more transparent to the board, staff, and community. The details from those discussions, along with additional reductions made by administration, were compiled into the fiscal year 25 budget presented in July and adopted in September. In October, the board engaged in the annual tax levy workshop and approved the tentative tax levy in November. Tonight, the district is holding a public hearing on the proposed tax levy, and we will ask the board to adopt the final levy later on the agenda. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, the board and administration engaged in a lengthy process to review each of the department's budgets in detail. Once we completed the review of 5-year budget projections and all additional refinements, almost every department in Fund 10 showed a reduction in expenses. Excluding personnel expenses, we reduced budgets for Fund 10 departments by $2.7 million, or about 11.2% in fiscal year 25. So because roughly 80% of the district's expenses are personnel expenses that are guaranteed through collective bargaining agreements, it is almost impossible to maintain a perfectly flat budget year over year. The non-personnel expenditures are essential services of the district, such as facility maintenance, transportation, food service, IT, special education services, and curriculum replacement. However, while we cannot prevent growth overall in the budget, we can actively minimize the rate of growth, and that is something that we have done intentionally over the past few years. From 2022 to 2025, the rate of growth of our budget has slowed by nearly 50%. This highlights some of the results of a joint effort between this board and administration for continuous improvement of the fiscal practices of this school district. So the 2024 levy was developed with the information we have at this time. There are also several factors that we had to project based on conversations with the City of St. Charles, Kane County, and DuPage County. We are anticipating tentative EAV growth of approximately 12.4% in 2024, and additionally, we've included new construction at $40 million, which includes the expiration of the St. Charles Mall TIF. We have, however, stress tested the levy up to new growth of $60 million, just to ensure that we capture all of the growth in property value that is available when the county actually extends property taxes. So this chart shows the tentative levy for 2024, along with a comparison to last year's extension. The unshaded column in the middle shows the 2024 tentative tax levy as it was approved in November, and as it has been included in the final levy documents tonight. The total levy increase over the prior year, including debt service, is 5.21%. That does not mean, however, that we are increasing property tax bills by more than 5%. As we discussed, there are several unknown factors during the adoption of the tax levy, and the levy is developed strategically to withstand fluctuations in those unknown factors. The shaded column to the right is the projected extension, assuming all of the assumptions stated on the previous slide are correct. In this case, we would expect the county clerk to reduce our total levy increase to approximately 4.69% when it is extended to the community. But again, that is not an increase of more than 4% to property tax bills. That percentage is the year-over-year change to the aggregate levy revenue the district will receive. This change is higher than CPI of 3.4%, but there are two primary reasons for that. One is the inclusion of new property, which adds new revenue to the property tax extension, causing a year-over-year change to property tax revenue that is higher than CPI. The second reason is the increase in bond and interest from the recent debt issuance related to construction. I mentioned on the previous slide that we are not increasing property tax bills by the percentages on the chart, but unfortunately the impact on individual tax bills is much less straightforward to calculate, as it's influenced by a number of factors. That includes fluctuations in the ratio of total residential property value to total commercial property value, individual changes to property value compared to changes to EAV in total, and then the final amount of new growth. But because the relationship between the changes to inflation and property values, we are projecting that when the county calculates the school district's tax rate this year, it will decrease. That means, based on the assumptions included on the last two slides, last year taxpayers paid $52 for every $1,000 in EAV, and next year they will pay closer to $48. However, I do need to add the additional caveat that if the county's final extension of property taxes or the final calculated property values are different than we have included in our assumptions here, that tax rate will change from what I have included on this slide. As I mentioned earlier, we are asking the board to adopt the final 24 aggregate tax levy later on the agenda tonight, and then administration will file the levy with the counties prior to the statutory deadline at the end of this month.
Would any community members like to make a comment concerning the tax levy? This is specifically opening the floor for comments related to the tax levy. Seeing none, do any board members have comments on the public hearing?
One, I want to just first of all thank this board and administration for all the hard work this year. As Mr. Attaway mentioned, we started a 5-year budget projection. It's something that very few districts in the state do. And we spent a lot of time and a lot of effort. So again, I want to thank administration and the board for all the hard work in doing this. I think we got a good result here. So thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to Justin. He does a great job going through this presentation each time he comes up and does it. So I really appreciate the way you explain it in layman's terms for us non-financially career-focused board members. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Seeing no other comments, the public hearing on the tax levy is closed at 6:07 p.m. That moves us to item 3 on the agenda, reports to the board. Dr. Gordon's report is first. Item A. Dr. Gordon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Lackner. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Professional Learning Center at Lincoln School. We're excited to open this new space designed to support educators and staff throughout D303. Oftentimes, we think about our commitment statement, Together Building Pathways to Excellence, specifically focused on our students. But the truth is, it's focused on our students and our staff. Professional learning and growth is a hallmark of great school districts. When districts focus on this effort, on improving educators' outcomes, they also improve the outcomes for our students. My belief, and my team has heard my goofy little saying, is that we must grow our big people so we can continue to grow our little people. This space is a testament to our commitment to our staff. I'd like to first thank the Board of Education for their commitment to learning and growth for our educators and staff members. Next, I'd like to thank Amanda Stuber and her team. I gave a high-level overview of my vision for what this would look like, and to be truthful, it was a skeleton vision of that. Her work and her team's work to make this come to life is just absolutely outstanding. I know it took a tremendous amount of time and effort by you and your team, but it is much appreciated. In the same vein, I'd like to thank our IT team for their collaboration, their work, specifically Dave over here for his partnership with Amanda and our other teammates in developing this incredible space. But I would also like to thank our partners of Wold, our architect, and Pepper for their commitment to excellence within this space as well. Again, our focus must continue to be around growing our staff, and this space allows us to do that. So board, thank you for your commitment, for your belief in D303 educators and staff throughout our district. Next, and what a perfect time to celebrate a place with all of our students, with staff members in attendance tonight. Tonight, we have Mr. Jim Richter and Ms. Shanna Lewis here with us tonight to highlight our National Merit finalist. So would you please come on up, and then you can introduce your students.
Good evening, and thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to celebrate the accomplishments of our students. Just to give you a little bit of background, now our National Merit semifinalists are all qualified as being one of the top 16,000 students in the country. And they qualify for this designation through their fall of junior year PSAT that they take, which also doubles as the NMSQT, or National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Roughly 95% of all the semifinalists will make it to a finalist standing, and of that, about half of those students will be awarded over $28 million of scholarships in the spring of 2025. So a huge accomplishment for our students who have achieved this status, and really representing the best of the best in all of the United States. So just a really great accomplishment. At St. Charles East, please do.
Just adding one thing, less than 1% of high school seniors qualify as National Merit semifinalists, so that just kind of puts in perspective the achievement of the students that we're going to introduce to you.
At St. Charles East High School, we are very proud of Mr. Brody Blask, who has been named a National Merit semifinalist. So there's Brody right here. I did warn Brody sometimes that the students do get asked of what their plans are after high school, so he should be prepared. So Brody, if you want to come on up and just share a little bit about with the board, a little bit about what your plans are after high school.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to study computer science somewhere around here in the Midwest, and I would want to be a software engineer after college.
And we have two students from North. First, I will introduce C. Atkins.
I'm hoping to go into the medical field. I don't know where yet, but.
I jokingly told them they were going to have to speak, so I didn't prepare them as much as Mr. Richter did. So we also have Natalie Van Dorp.
Next year, I will be attending Middle Tennessee State University, majoring in recording industry with a concentration in music business, as an aspiring collaborative songwriter-producer and someone working in the recording industry.
Outstanding to each of you for your amazing contributions and talents. Just congratulations on behalf of the administration and Board of Education. Next, we would like to welcome Mr. Joe Benoit as he does his annual conversation with the board around swim and dive.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Gordon. It's great to be here once again to present some absolutely outstanding student athletes and their coaching staff. You know, when we talk about the core values of our district, and you talk about belonging and perseverance and achievement, boy, I don't know a more deserving group than our girls swim and dive team to present to you tonight. They're just absolutely outstanding. Not only do they get it done in the pool, but more importantly, they get it done in the community with their swim lessons over the summer that they conduct, with their community outreach, their community service, but then also in the classroom. This is an extraordinary group of student athletes that not only represent what it means to be a North Star unbelievably well, but also what it means to be a D303 student athlete. So we're just incredibly proud. They finished this year third in the state in the for the IHSA, which is incredible. They also won the sectional and they won our conference. So again, just an amazing group of student athletes led by an outstanding coaching staff. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to head coach Rob Rooney.
I'm going to actually turn it over to Kate Farrell, who's a junior, who was a state runner-up in the 200 IM and third in the 500 free, and I'll announce one other thing after that.
Good evening. As Coach Rooney said, I'm Kate Farrell, a junior on the St. Charles North swim team. I'm a new student at North, having just transferred this year, and have been overwhelmed by support from all sides. On behalf of the entire North swim and dive team, I would like to express the utmost gratitude to Mr. Benoit, Principal Lewis, the entire St. Charles North Athletic Department, and the Board of Education for their unwavering support to the North swim team. Our success at the state meet can be attributed to this such support. As Coach Rooney always says, when we swim, we represent not only ourselves, but the entire community of St. Charles, and my entire team and I wholeheartedly agree. There is no community we would rather represent. It has been an honor to swim for St. Charles this year, and I'm very much looking forward to represent our community next year, thanks to the support from all of District 303. Thank you.
We would like to present a medal to Dr. Gordon. And Amanda, I cannot thank you enough. We'd like to present one to you because the work that Gio did and the opportunity you provided him and the backing you provided for him this fall really led to a lot of changes in our aquatic facilities. So thank you very much. Izzy, come on up. And Avery, if you can come on up. Both these two young ladies, as well as Kate and another young lady named by Tess Staffordopoulos, broke a state record this year. That was the first state record since back in the 90s, occupied by St. Charles. It was rather awesome, but something they set their mind out to. Currently, they're ranked number 2. I saw a team from Bellevue in Seattle, Washington, actually beat them from the last weekend. But right now, they're the number 2 ranked team in the country. So thank you guys very much.
I would love that.
All right. First up, we're going to have Maya Townsend. Maya is an AWD student athlete at St. Charles North. She is a 10-time state champion in her events over the course of 3 years. I'd like to introduce junior Abby Hill, who is one of the best distance swimmers in the state. Kate Farrell. Gianna Messina, qualifier in the 100 breaststroke. Thea Bike, who is a freshman all-state 100 backstroke and on a medley relay that scored. Hayden. Yeah, our little Mighty Mouse, Hayden Crucy, who anchored the medley relay and also on the 200 free relay that was a runner-up in the event. Tatum Lucky, a backstroker. The last two ladies I'm going to introduce, I'm going to kind of do together. One is going to the University of Tennessee. The other one is going to the University of Georgia. Both of them are state champions. Izzy is a two-time state champion in the 200 IM and the 100 fly. Avery was a state champion in the 500 free and a runner-up in the 200 free, and both of them were part of that relay that broke the state record. One thing that I'm going to close with is I believe it's a triangle. My parents, the student athletes, and the coaches are all equal. And I could not have the program I have if it was not for the parents that are behind me and the time that they put into our program and the culture of our program. So thank you.
Team, thank you so much for coming out. Mr. Rooney, thank you for your leadership, for what you do for our community and all that you give back to our community. Thank you. You are families, students, you're welcome to stay, but you're also free to leave. Have a great night. Thank you for coming out. Shocking, shocking. We have our video. Mr. Lackner, back to you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Gordon. It's such a pleasure to see the successes in the district in the video and to hear the stories of the teams here and to see really the outstanding academic performance of some of our students. So what a great highlight. Thank you for sharing. That brings us to item B, 3B, board committee reports. Let's start with L&T.
All right. L&T met on November 18th. The focus of the L&T meeting was PLCs in action. We heard from principals from each level, elementary, middle school, and high school, as well as department chairs from the high schools. The focus of those PLC reports were about the curriculum and the different instructional practices that they are working on and learning about. We heard a lot of important reflection on how well the PLCs are working. The board asked a few questions that the L&T team will also answer at our next meeting. We also had the Chief Academic Officer update. The Student Achievement Report was updated, as well as updates on a variety of work that's going on. Our next meeting is on Monday, December 16th. We will be sharing it with Business Services as we bring to full scale the work on the multilingual programs. And I think, so that meeting is December 16th. Again, you can read the minutes in the board book, and you can also listen to the L&T meeting on our YouTube.
Thank you, Mrs. McCabe. That brings us to Business Services. Mr. Lenz?
All right. We had a very brief business services meeting on November 21st. There were no issues or areas of concern in our reports. We got feedback on our 2024 audit. Everything looked great. We got a clean audit report. We also had some discussion on our tax levy that we're going to vote on later tonight. There's also the designation of depositories, which is also on the agenda for tonight. And then in the consent, we had an item for the data room air conditioning replacement. So pretty short meeting. It's nice to see those at the end of the year here.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz. Was there a policy committee meeting as well?
Yes, there was, and that actually, there are items from that are on our consent agenda for tonight's meeting as well. For the most part, pretty standard in terms of recommendations from the press group. I would note, though, we did have quite a bit of discussion around the course selection and assignment at the high school level, but really no change for us from an operational standpoint, since we continue to be a challenge by choice district.
Thank you, Mrs. Fairgrieve. That brings us to item 4 on the agenda, citizens' comments. We do have, beginning of the meeting, citizens' comments. So, Mr. Kuchert, I wonder if you'd read our introduction.
Mr. Lackner, DPTO did actually meet.
Okay.
So,
do you want to offer a report? That'd be
yeah,
great.
Just
Thank
a brief one. It was it's a very short report. We met on not January. That's the next meeting. Excuse me, November 20th. And mostly it was just a lot of questions. They asked a lot of questions of me. So that's me being the new board member there. They just wanted to know a lot of updates about buildings status, which ones are opening when, how's this construction going, and of course I always point them to the website. And we just had a pretty robust discussion in which they wanted to know a lot of various things. They just wanted to ask questions. One of the really great things that I liked about it is that they were doing a lot of sharing of ideas about some upcoming fundraisers or ideas for fundraisers, it's really nice to see the PTOs being able to connect and saying, well, I did this before, how did this work, and sharing resources, and it was delightful. Very much enjoyed it, and there's no meeting in December. The next meeting is in January, on January 15th.
Thank you, Mrs. Bell. That brings us then to item 4 on the agenda, opening of the meeting, citizen comments. We do have those comments. Mr. Kuchert.
Thank you. During the public comment period, members of the public body who wish to speak are asked to first state their name and the community in which they reside. Each individual will have up to 3 minutes to address the board on a topic of their choosing. We ask all individuals who address the board to do so with respect and civility towards others. Please note that personnel matters are sensitive and confidential. We also want to inform our speakers that all regular, special, and committee meetings are live streamed and are available for viewing at any time on the district's YouTube channel. Personal information should be considered before making a statement that will be recorded and made public. While the board will not respond to today's public comment during this meeting, we are committed to listening to you to help support our work for the district and on behalf of our students, staff, families, and community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchert. The first speaker is Jim Butts.
Hello, my name is Jim Butts. I'm a resident of St. Charles, father of 3 kids in the district, and one of whom attends Thompson and another who attends Davis, and our youngest will be attending kindergarten at Davis starting next year. So thanks for the opportunity to chat. I'm here with a few other parents from a specific classroom at Davis where our teacher announced she was resigning on Friday. And I wanted to come and ask this board and the administration for special consideration in both finding a new teacher and in examining the support for our teachers that we're giving at Davis. I'm going to try to keep this quick. I have a lot of stuff I could say in 3 minutes, but our classroom at Davis has had a lot of disciplinary issues, and we're trying to wrap our heads around a lot of different factors going on. But the first thing I wanted to ask is that my oldest daughter, Madeline, when she was in 3rd grade, her teacher, a early first or second year teacher, resigned after the first month. And it took the rest of the semester to find a full-time certified teacher. Instead, she was taught by a full-time, non-certified sub who, according to my daughter, would come in and ask to open the laptop and use learning apps for the remainder of the day. We all know how important it is to have a great teacher to facilitate learning. My son Jonathan is now in 3rd grade. Same scenario. He had a wonderful teacher, in my opinion, who resigned because she was not given, well, we don't know why she resigned, but we know that there were issues in the classroom related to discipline, and I don't think at Davis we are giving our teachers the opportunity to succeed. Specifically, when it comes to discipline issues, I'll give another quick example. My son in the 2nd grade had a disciplinary issue with a student in the classroom. It dragged on. We had many meetings with the principal, Principal Shaw, with Jared Buxton, with other staff members, parents from many parents in the classroom set up different talks on this. And we were always told, we can't talk about it. It's being handled. We all know that we live in a world of IEPs and trying to give the students, keep them in the classroom. I agree with a lot of that philosophically. I don't want to punish any kids. That's not what I'm asking. But what I am seeing is a pattern in that case. It only ended, the class was awful. No learning was, well, of course learning was taking place, but learning was disrupted throughout the year. And then it only changed when, geez, I'm running out of time. Okay, let me conclude. I probably did this a little poorly by just saying that if this administration, if this board could, work with the HR department to please urgently look for a new teacher for our students and not repeat the same experience that we had previously with a full-time uncertified sub, asking them to open their laptops every day. And to secondly, review the discipline procedures at your own will that are taking place at Davis Elementary, where there's a repeated pattern of no consequences for students' actions. And we kind of get a hand wave, that's the state law, nothing we can do. I don't think that's appropriate. I could go into great detail, whoever wants to contact me or one of the other parents that are dealing with this every day. Our kids don't want to go to school. They don't want to deal with these issues. They deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butts. The next speaker is Tricia Sabathney.
All right. Hello, my name is Tricia Sabathney, and I am a community member, parent, and staff member. And also, this is beautiful, and thank you for your service. I'm here to talk about multilingual programming again, the multilingual programming specifically that will be available next year for our students. For tonight, I would like to share with you the information that is shared with our families that are transitioning to kindergarten. So we have a student who's transitioning to kindergarten who speaks Spanish. This workshop has been shared for the last 2 years. I facilitate it, and I think there's information about the dual language program that would be just important for you to know. I know that, well, so to start off, One part reviews the process for all multilingual learners so that English proficiency is measured, and based on that, you're eligible for English language support or you're not. There's a caveat there that if your student is at a 4.8 or more, and that means on their access that they're proficient in English, if they're in the dual language program, instead of exiting, they stay through 5th grade. So that's part of our policy and our procedure, and that's shared at this meeting with families. You all know you have become such experts in dual language, so I'm not going to go through the parts that you know that it means it's all Spanish speakers. What I think is interesting is the goals that are shared about the dual language program. Number 1, promote high academic achievement in both English and Spanish that encourages students to develop high levels of linguistic and academic skills. Number 2, develop full academic language proficiency in a student's first and second language using a 50-50 model of instruction, 50% English and 50% Spanish. Number 3, emphasize the value of understanding multiple cultural perspectives and using 2 languages. Another interesting part, why choose dual language? Facilitates biliteracy, the ability to speak, listen, read, and write proficiently in 2 languages, which is good for your brain. Learning language is easier for young children. Number 3, English learners succeed while maintaining their native language. Number 4, build strong social connections and cultural awareness. And then at this point in the presentation, there's a link to an article. I can share it with you if you want to know. So many of you know, anytime you share information, there's people that know it. You're speaking to the choir. And I appreciate families in that situation because they become mentors to those that are trying to decide, do we stay at our attendance zone and learn English? Or do we go dual language at a different school very often? Please listen to families, and please, this presentation has been shared, 2 times based on district practices. That is it. I ran out of time, similar to the gentleman beforehand. So I have a lot to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings our next speaker, Jessica Metz.
Good evening, board members, administration here tonight, and the community engaged. I'm here both as a concerned parent and a taxpayer in the community. I currently have a student in the early childhood program, and he is a student with special needs. Special education families, they dive into their child's education. We endure more paperwork, there's more planning, there's more documentation. It's more than the general district population, you could say. We have a personal investment, interest, and a vigilant involvement in supporting inclusion and providing representation for all. We have found that there is a collective struggle to effectively work together and are met with resistance in our schools. Fighting against families has no place in this district, and this is misplaced allegiance and a waste of resources. The district should be erring on the side of support for the students, the families, the taxpayers, and arguably our future taxpayers. While this district boasts inclusion and excellence, has great athletics, as we saw tonight, the pathway to excellence should be walked with open hands, not fists that are pushing down families and make them go away to make the data look better. It has been evidence that growth of children with special needs is ever increasing, and this population grows within our district, within other districts, and we're going to need more teachers, specialists, we need more supported services, and we need a respectful collaboration process with these families. The district has an opportunity and an obligation to drive this. If we're fighting for our students' education now, what will we do if the Department of Education is dismantled? We're not there yet, but is there a plan to protect our most vulnerable students? We already have students where teachers have made it clear that more support is needed, and just to open an IEP, and then the school says, no, we don't have the resources to provide that support. The students most vulnerable are met with blockades and hurdles, and this is affecting everyone. This affects all students. The needs for control to drive and fight parents on simple accommodations is costing not just the parents, but also the district and every taxpayer in the city. There's no consistency. Parents are denied meetings and collaboration of any sort, while others have continuous meetings, reconvene after reconvene for a semester long. On the other hand, how many students have been denied IEPs and 504s in the past couple of years compared to our previous years? We don't get a do-over here. Many times the board circles back to the finances and budgeting involved in making decisions, rightfully so. When evaluating the district budget reports against our neighboring schools like Geneva, Batavia, and Elgin, our legal fees are the highest, at a broken down level of $220 per student in the D303 district, compared to U46, Elgin's $177 per student. Elgin is the second largest district in the state. They have 3 times the amount of students at a whopping 35,000, and we have about 12,000 in this district. Where are these legal fees going? What are they? Why are they so much higher? Why do we parents keep seeking appropriate education for our children to be meth resistant and legal intimidation? I encourage viewing the financial budget of comparable schools. D303 has seen a surge in special education lawsuits once before, and we want to protect our school. We want to save money. We don't want to increase property taxes just so that way we can fight. The legal budget is 100% funded by property taxes. We know this. This doesn't sit right neither as a special needs parent nor a taxpayer in this community. We challenge the school board to be open, attentive, and aware of the impact special education treatment has on all students, the district's budgeting, and taxpayer dollars. We challenge the school board of education to represent all students and adopt a multifaceted perspective when making decisions as it relates to the school district. I've heard the questions, and over multiple meetings, I know that you guys are good with your perspectives and questions. Keep it going. While the board faces difficult decisions regularly, please know that there's many parents beside you, and we're working towards the same goal. The team mentality has not been lost on us, and I want to thank you for your time tonight and hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to our final speaker of the evening, Dove Holisek.
Hi, I'm Dove Holisek. I have 3 children in this district, 2 of which have IEPs. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I come to you not only as a concerned parent, but as someone deeply committed to fostering a partnership between parents and our schools for the benefit of all children in D303. I have 3 children in elementary, 2 of which have IEPs. My son is at Munhall in kindergarten. He is non-speaking and autistic. I want to address several pressing concerns regarding transparency, collaboration, and the district's approach to serving students with special needs. First, transparency is a cornerstone of trust between parents and the district. Unfortunately, many parents, including myself, have felt excluded from critical discussions and decisions that affect our children. For example, when we reach out for support, instead of collaborative problem solving, we often face resistance. This adversarial approach undermines the partnership that should exist between parents and educators. Second, I'm deeply concerned about how resources and funds are being used. As stated earlier, I'm also a taxpayer here, and the district must ensure that resources are allocated wisely and directly benefiting our students. Yet it's troubling to see attorneys involved in my child's IEP process rather than focusing on providing the services and supports that he and so many other students need. To illustrate, my family has been requesting an IEP meeting since September to address critical safety concerns for my son. Just this afternoon, I had a 3-hour IEP meeting and then waited an hour and a half for my notes after. I didn't leave till 5 o'clock. The attorney was there the entire time. Instead of meeting right away, the meeting was postponed so the district's attorney could be present. They didn't say that in the email, but they had rescheduled, and then she was on the next email. Waiting months to create a safety plan and a behavior plan for my son, while he has been out of the building more than 30 times. It's unacceptable. Prioritizing legal representation over addressing a child's immediate safety concerns needs safety needs demonstrates a lack of urgency and compassion. For the record, I don't even have an attorney. I'm just a parent asking for my child to be safe and supported. Parents should not have to fight so hard to secure basic services for their children. The Individuals with Disability Education Act was designed to guarantee that every child receives a free and appropriate public education. When families are forced into contentious battles just to secure those rights, it signals a systematic failure. I urge the district to take the following steps. 1, prioritize transparency. Regularly engage parents in meaningful discussions about policies, resources, and decision-making processes. 2, please commit to collaboration. Approach IEP meetings and other parent interactions with the goal of problem solving, not conflict. 3, streamline your resources. Invest directly in programs and supports that serve students rather than unnecessary legal fees. Act with urgency. Number 4, address safety and behavior plans promptly to assure no child is left without the tools they need to succeed. We all want the same thing for our children, to thrive in a safe, supportive, and inclusive learning environment. Let's work together to ensure that D303 lives up to its commitment to every student and family it serves. Thank you.
Thank you for all those comments. That brings us to item 5 on the agenda, the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 5A through 5N?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz and Mr. McNally. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Marsan, can you please take the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Beergrave?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchert?
Yes.
Mr. Lentz?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Mr. McNally?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes, the motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 6 on the agenda, 4 action items. Item A is a resolution to adopt the 2024 aggregate tax levy. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution to adopt the 2024 aggregate tax levy?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz and Mr. Kuchert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Marsan, can you please take the roll?
Mr. Kuchert?
Just a brief moment before I vote here, if you wouldn't mind. So I'd like to thank the board for their commitment to fiduciary responsibility. It's one of the reasons why I ran for the board. I think that, as Mr. Lentz stated earlier, that our new process that's been spearheaded by Business Services and this board and the administration to wisely spend taxpayer dollars has been impressive and, again, like I said, unique. So we're all taxpayers in this district, and I appreciate that attention to detail. That said, my vote is yes.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Mr. McNally?
No.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes, the motion passes 6-1. That brings us to item B, the designation of depositories. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution of the School Board of Community Unit School District?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz and Mrs. McCabe. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Marsan, can you please take the roll?
Mr. Lentz?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Mr. McNally?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave?
Abstain.
Mr. Kuchert?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Abstain. The motion passes 5 yes, no no's, and 2 abstentions. That brings us to item C, a III registration. Can I have a motion to approve the III registration for board member Mr. McNally?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz and Mr. Kuchert. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Marsan, can you please take the roll?
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Mr. McNally?
Abstain.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchert?
Yes.
Mr. Lentz?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes, the motion passes with 6 yeas and 1 abstention. That brings us to item 7 on the agenda for information. There are 5 items included in the packet that are for information only. They are the D303 financial report, the Mid-Valley financial report, Freedom of Information Act requests, district enrollment, and the fiscal year 2024 audit report that Mr. Lentz spoke about in his review. That brings us to item 8 on the agenda, new business. Do any board members have any new business that they would like to introduce tonight?
I'd like to bring up a brief topic that I've received some questions and some concerns from the community regarding our school start times. So I think it would just be wise, I know we spent a lot of time discussing this and kind of the rationale behind the administration's recommendations for those start times, but there still appears to be some concern and some confusion in the community. So if we might be able to give a brief update regarding that rationale, why we're doing what we're doing, I think it would be really helpful for a number of folks in the community.
Seeing no others, are there any end-of-meeting citizen comments? No. That brings us to item 10 on the agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn the December 9, 2024 school board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchert and Mr. Lentz. Ms. Marsan, can you please take the roll?
Mr. McNally?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchert?
Yes.
Mr. Lentz?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes, the meeting is adjourned at 6:50 p.m.